Hey, it's Mike Hambright with Flipner.com. Welcome back for another exciting expert interview, where I interview expert guests from the real estate investing industry to help you learn and provide some inspiration for you. Just a quick reminder of our upcoming REI Power Summit, reipowersummit.com. It's going to be a massive online real estate investing event, probably the biggest online event ever, 100% virtual, so you can really watch it from anywhere. And it's just going to be a fantastic event. We have over 50 speakers lined up that can help you in your business. So check out reipowersummit.com. For today's show, I'm excited. I'm joined by Gene Guarino. And Guarino, I have to use my hand here.
Great.
He's a real estate investor, is author of several books. He's been the host of multiple radio shows and has taught people all over the world how to start their own businesses. Gene's primary focus these days is a really interesting topic. It's residential assisted living, literally turning traditional houses into assisted living facilities. And after 250 episodes of the show, very literally, we've never talked about assisted living before. And given the aging population in America, this is a huge opportunity. It's very exciting. And so if you haven't considered it before, I definitely would say get comfortable. And let's start today's show in just a second here with Gene talking about residential assisted living. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days with rates starting as low as 9%. For more information, call 888-296-1697. B2R Finance makes loans tailored specifically for rental investors. They can help you unlock equity from existing properties so you can get cash out to grow your rental portfolio. That's huge and opens up lots of opportunities previously not available to rental investors. Need a loan? Call 855-819-4412 or visit b2rfinance.com today. AceBusinessFunding.com can help you get up to $150,000 in revolving credit lines to fund your business with rates as low as 0% for the first 12 to 18 months. Use the funds for startup costs, marketing, inventory, or almost anything your business needs. If you can't get funding, you don't pay a dime. Get funds for your business today at acebusinessfunding.com. We'd also like to thank Colony American Finance, National Real Estate Insurance Group, and virtualstaffnow.com. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of Flipner.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Gene, welcome to the show.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. I'm excited I'm excited that you're here with us today. And this topic, it's one of those things that, a lot of people that are like newer real estate investors, they tend to say, well, does that person have a lot of experience with real estate investing? They kind of lump it all together. And of course, with me doing this show, I've realized more than ever that how many different niches there are and ways to make money. And I know nothing about, the majority of those different scenarios. I have a very kind of narrow niche, but every once in a while you hear a strategy like yours and it's just like, duh. I was like, that's a huge opportunity. Never considered that. But I'm excited to talk about it today. It's really interesting.
I am so excited to share about it too, because when I first heard about this a decade ago, we were talking a little bit earlier, a decade ago, there was nobody there to say, here's how you do it, because they hadn't done it themselves. So after a lot of research and getting into this, it is a phenomenal industry to be in. And like you said, with the baby boomers upon us, this wave of opportunity, this silver tsunami, the opportunity and the timing is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into the topic, kind of tell us your background. I know you're kind of a serial entrepreneur. You've done a number of things, but kind of tell us, where you started and how you got to this point.
You got it. Well, at the age of 18, seriously, that's when I bought my first property.
Awesome.
I was actually in a business and we were renting a building from somebody, and the landlord was terrible. Looked up the street, saw a for sale sign, pulled it out of the lawn, came home, called the realtor, and called them up. We ended up buying the house, no money down. So that was my first deal, age 18. First commercial was age 25, and here I am 30 years later, still doing it. And but now I'm doing just one thing, eventual assisted living.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I always appreciate. In fact, I had dinner last night with some of the people that I mentor and coach, and one of them is getting their daughter involved in the business, and she's 17. She literally graduated from high school earlier, getting in, and her father's goal for her was like she's going to be completely retired by the time she's 30, if not sooner. And I think
That's great.
it's always interesting. Probably the biggest regret I hear a lot of real estate investors make is, especially those that were in corporate America or somewhere else and found their way there, is they're like, if it only started sooner. So I always think it's
Sure.
awesome for folks that started as early as you did. Because it's been such a great business for so many people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and just speaking to that family wise, this is the first time in 30 plus years of real estate investing that my wife is involved directly with me in a business. And it's really exciting. With fixing a house and flipping it, I always felt like I just did everything to make this house beautiful and somebody else gets to enjoy it. And they always they trash it. So you make your money and you're unemployed. And then when it's buy and hold, you buy a house, you make $100, $200 positive cash flow. And it's like, when I was 20, that was exciting. But when I'm 54, not so exciting. Yeah. But now with this, we're going to talk about the idea of taking a single family home and making 5, 10, 15,000 net per month. Wow. Now we're back to being excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk about just, we're going to, I guess maybe start by talking about just what's going on with the aging population and stuff like that kind of brings this opportunity about a lot of people retiring with, living on Social Security or having, very little assets. So talk about kind of the opportunity that has created and how that's come about.
Yeah. With the aging population that everybody knows about, the baby boomers, and I'll just run over the facts so people have it. 77 million baby boomers, 10,000 people a day turning 65, but more importantly, 4,000 people every day turning 85, and 70% of them are going to need help with their activities of daily living. So think about what you woke up this morning. You rolled out of bed. Well, sometimes people, when you're 85, can't roll out of bed. You brush your teeth. Well, sometimes they need help with that. You made your breakfast, ate it. Sometimes they need help with that. So those activities of daily living, they need help with. So why it's an opportunity now, it's not just the baby boomers, but it was not that long ago where your life expectancy was the age 40. Then it was 60. Today it's 77, maybe 80. People are living longer than they were before.
Right.
So instead of the family just saying, Grandma, Grandpa, just move back into the house and they're gone. Now it's, wow, Grandpa's lasting for a long time. Grandma needs help and I can't quit my job to go help her.
Right.
So now they're not ready for a nursing home. And it's not the Golden Girls where there's 4 people living in a house taking care of each other. It's this in between. So this assisted living has really exploded in the last 10, 20 years. And, when I first thought about getting into the senior market, because I always look at the big picture, what's the mega trend? Seniors, that's it. So how do you get involved? Well, healthcare. Well, I'm not going to own a hospital. I'm not going to put up a nursing home. But what I can do is take a single family home and make a better facility, a better residence for them and take care of them, helping them and then helping the family too.
Sure.
And then when you start mixing in the numbers, when people go to a large assisted living, the big box that many people who are listening right now, they've seen these units going up down the street, 100, 200 units. The REITs, the hedge funds are putting in 10, 20, $30 million into these facilities. Grandma lived in a house, doesn't want to apartment in floor 6 and it's 100 yards of breakfast. She wants to live in her home, but she needs more help than that. So now it's a home that's in the neighborhood just down the street. And there might be 10 people in the home and 2 caregivers 24/7 taking care of the residents in the home. And it's a home.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, so I can't relate to this yet because I'm not to that age point yet. But I think you're right. People have lived in a home probably for a long period of time and they've made it their home. And now there starts to be this conversation about this word facility. It's like institution. It's like, it sounds scary out there sending me out. I'm going to have to go out to a factory that's kind of sterile and basically feels like it's just the next step to a hospital instead of something that's homey and comfortable. So what's interesting to me is that we had somebody on the show a long time ago, very early on, and their model was corporate housing. So, people that travel a lot, go back to the same city for like 6 months or 9 months at a time. You stay in a hotel at, $300 a night, it's $10,000 a month. And so what they would do is take that same house that you'd normally maybe, just pulling these numbers out of nowhere, you get $1,000 a month in rent. But if you furnish it and you turn it to corporate housing and you position it to corporations where their alternative is $9,000 a month, paying $300 a night at a hotel. People can't leave their clothes there on the weekend. They have to go back and forth. They don't have laundry facilities. And you essentially repurpose that house for two or three times what you would get in normal rent.
Yeah.
But this is the same type of thing. You're taking a house that by its nature has a limited amount of rent you could get on it as a traditional rental, but you find a way to repurpose it where you could essentially get a lot more out of it. So
Right.
kind of talk about that. I mean, where do we go from here? You want to talk about kind of the economics of it, or where do we go?
Sure. Well, let me give kind of the bigger picture, because
Sure,
when I
sure.
do the trainings in a room, when I'm doing a training to a group of people that are attracted to this whole concept, there's a group of people that just want to be on the real estate side. So they own the house and they lease it to the operator.
I
Then
see.
there's a group of people that just want to operate the business, and they don't understand real estate, or they feel like they can't buy it because they don't have good credit or money, and they haven't learned how to do it with nobody's. I teach them how to do it without their own money, but then there's the group that wants to own the real estate and operate. So let's start with just a lot of people who are listening here, I'm sure, are real estate investors.
Sure.
So with this home, where let's say, and I'm going to go bigger, let's say the home average rent is $2,500 for that home. It's
Okay.
a little nicer home, a bigger home. If they could lease that to somebody for $5,000 a month, and it's a 5-year lease, that's very attractive. Now,
Sure.
why would somebody pay twice the fair market rent? Because they're going to come in and they're going to operate this business in that home, and it's licensed and it's legal and all in home, and they're going to make $10,000 a month in profit. But they want a long-term lease. It's low impact tenants because grandma doesn't, put a lot of holes in the wall.
Yeah.
They're in bed by 7:30, so the neighbors aren't complaining. So the business can be very, very profitable. And the real estate investor who owns that real estate, if they can buy the right home and then lease it out for up to twice the fair market rent, that's a great position for them.
Sure.
So if you own the real estate and the business like I do, then you've got the best of both worlds, and you can make your 5, 10, 15, 20,000 net profit from being on both sides of the equation.
Sure. So as an investor, if you wanted to work with separately with an operator, you're not the operator, you just prepare the property. I guess some of why you're able to get more rent out of that is because you're retrofitting it to have some safety features, ramps, wider, doorways, all those things. Kind of talk about, some of the things that an investor would have to do differently than what they do maybe traditionally
Sure.
today.
Yeah, and then I also want to make sure, I cannot forget this, how to find the product that we're looking for. So
Mm,
doing differently, the average house, again, I've had many rentals before. You want to make sure that the house is safe and clean and all that. But with seniors, safe is different. So grab bars in the bathrooms. It might be toilets that are a little higher, the elongated toilet a little higher.
yeah.
It may, if it's going to be a big enough facility, you may have to have sprinklers installed in the home. Now, that's not your normal single family home. It
Right.
looks the same on the outside and inside, pretty much the same. But when you add grab bars, smoke detectors, sprinkler systems, so now think about the average person who's renting their house to a single family for a year. They don't want them putting a nail in the wall versus we're going to widen the doorway and put grab bars in and put a
Right. Right.
sprinkler system in. So if the operator that house, they're going to, now it's all negotiation. They may say to that investor, okay, I'll give you twice the fair market rent, but I need you to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Or you have to give me permission to be able to do those things. So why would that investor who owns the house allow that? 5-year lease with a long-term tenant at up to twice the fair market rent.
Sure.
That's what they get out of it. On the other side, if that person who's leasing the building, the house, in this case, for a 5-year lease is going to make 10 grand a month in profit, they may be willing to put in $50,000 in remodeling costs.
Right.
And so it's a give and take, and that's where there's some negotiation in regards to why
Sure.
why one party would do it versus another.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like a commercial property where, you allow people to come and do their own finish out, or maybe you provide them some funds to do those things. I know it's interesting because as an investor, once you make that decision, it's a long-term decision. I mean, I know we've bought plenty of houses from, elderly folks or folks that passed away, inherited houses and things like that had been retrofit for an
Yeah.
aging population. But, we're trying to, usually when we rehab them and resell them, we're trying to appeal to more of a mass audience. So we undo all those things. We,
Right.
put smaller doors in. We get rid of all the grab bars in the shower because a young family probably doesn't want that. And, so it's interesting. It kind of depends on who your audience is going to be, but
Yeah.
that's interesting. So
And now I want to address this because I don't want to forget it. I'm guessing a lot of people, and this is one of those tips, I could save it for the end, but the point is, a lot of people have passed up on homes because of the grab bars, the wide doorways, why are there so many bedrooms, and
yeah,
it's all hardwood or tile, and I'd rather have carpet in my bedroom. And it's like, pause. That's you've already got all the elements of the assisted living home, and somebody already did all the hard work for it. or somebody passes up on the home because it's on the busy commercial street, or it backs up to the commercial, or the backyard is noisy or loud. Stop. Perfect for the assisted living.
Yeah.
This street is convenient. Commercial, back to it. Nobody else wants it. I get the house at a discount, but grandma can't hear that well.
Right.
So being in the backyard with the commercial and it's louder, that's not a big deal. So there's a lot of properties that people have literally passed up that they should now look at differently. It's a
Yeah,
cash
and
flow
you made some
opportunity.
you made some comment about finding properties, and my guess is I've been in a business for so long that we buy houses that are usually distressed. We buy at a deep discount. It's hard for me to pay retail for anything now in my life because I've been
Yeah.
kind of brainwashed that I don't have to. But I guess there are when you're looking at what you can get in terms of value out of a house like this, you could probably very easily, just in some markets, of course, maybe pay full retail value for a house because you're going to get double the rent on it, and it's a different evaluation than what is the market value of it as a residential property because you're kind of changing the purpose of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you really hit the nail on the head, because in the current economic cycle we're at right now, this whole S curve and the idea of where real estate is at, we're definitely heading back up. We're not at the
Yeah,
bottom anymore, guys. And the idea of, I've been doing real estate for 30 plus years, and the mantra is you make your money when you buy. So
right.
everybody's thinking 30% below the fair market value. I can look at a house if it's in the right area, pay full market price, get the house, and now turn it into a massive cash flow, because it's not the limited market of the single family home where I'm renting it out for a year at a time. It's a business that I want to have there for decades. I
Right.
mean, it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. So we talked about somebody that just wants to be the investor in the property, and then maybe talk about probably not quite as fitting for this audience, but just maybe take a couple minutes and talk about kind of that person that just wants to operate.
Yeah, cool. And it's great because just yesterday, next night, let me back up. I do trainings, and in the trainings, there's all kinds of people in there: operators, real estate owners, private lenders, and so
Right.
on. So I do matching. Put people together that are the right personality, and they need what the other person has. So yesterday, I had a meeting with an operator here in Arizona who has homes, and he was asking, "I want to get more homes, Gene. How do I do that?" So I was showing him, but I said, "Well, do you want to own the real estate or just operate the business?" And he said, "Well, I just want to make money, and I'm an operator. That's what I do." I said, "Perfect, because I have investors who have the cash. They want to just buy the house and partner with somebody who wants to operate.
Yep.
So by putting them together, what's in it for each party? The real estate investor, they pay for the house. Their cash is what's being used. There's cash or credit. What do they get? They might get a preferred rate of X if it's cash, or a loan plus X on the additional cash. So they're going to get that. The operator, what's he going to get? The operator is the one who's going to put together the business, operate the business, maybe get a couple $1,000s a month as a base. And then the profit that's left over could be split 50-50. So the operator may end up making $6,000 a month from not only the real estate, just operating the business. And it's one of 4 or 5 that he does. And the real estate investor is totally hands off. They own a small rate of the cash they use for that, and then a split of the profits, which now doubles or maybe even triples their rate of return.
Sure.
So it's the putting of the two together that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess from an operator standpoint, can you maybe give so a couple questions. One is, an operator would typically be in one geographic area. It's not somebody that's probably operating, all over the country, right?
Yeah, at
Because they're
this
probably a
point,
little more hands-on than an institutionalized, facility, let's say, is my guess.
well, let me give you where the industry's at today, and then where we are working on taking with our academy when we teach people. Right now, this is a mom and pop industry. So most people who are doing this are mom and pop. They own a home. The kids moved out. They have extra bedrooms. Let me get a few other elderly people to move in,
Hmm.
make some extra food, do some extra laundry, be the caregiver. That's not what I want you guys to do. Not at all.
Yeah.
I want you to operate a business. We have a product, and the product is we're offering this service to our residents, but your client is really the family. See, I'm 54, so I'm not moving into the home, but mom or dad is.
Right.
So the family is the client. That's the resident is the head in the bed, but the family is the one who's paying typically for mom or dad,
Sure.
or it's coming out of the estate, their future inheritance. So
Right.
I'm appealing to that person there for the resident in the home. But in regards to the operations part of it, I I have managers, they have caregivers, but I may not go to the house for weeks or a month. I'm not there on a daily basis. If somebody wants to be the caregiver or the manager and so on, you can do this, but that's not what I really want you guys to do.
Right.
I'd rather have you oversee 3 or 4 of these, and they could be in different states. A lot of times people are caught in the nexus of, I have to live next door to my property so I can go touch it, feel it, see it, smell
Right.
it. That may be a bad thing. It may be better to do it in a different state so you can
Right.
only go there once or twice a year. And that's kind of what I want to encourage people to do.
Yeah.
Not this mom and pop, but be a business operator and oversee a number of them.
Sure.
So just depends on what you're really trying to go after.
And I guess from an operator standpoint, if you have, I guess whenever you have like a really small number of employees, like if you have 1 or 2 people that are there, there's some benefit to having multiples in the same area, general area,
Yeah.
because if somebody quits or gets hit by a truck or you fire them or whatever,
Perfect.
you could probably have somebody come over from the other side of town to take that instead of, being screwed.
The economies of scale of having a number of them in the same spot definitely work. Just like with apartments, when you have a 10-unit apartment building, you really can't afford a full-time handyman.
Right.
But if you have a 50-unit, you got a full-time handyman, full-time on-site, this, that. Same thing with the homes. If you just have one, all right. But if you have 4 or 5 and they're in the same area, the economies of scale definitely help you.
Sure. So maybe you could take a couple minutes to talk about. I guess my guess is it's probably different and my guess is there's some rules that are different probably by state, right? In terms of what you have to do to kind of retrofit your house and be safe and in compliance and all that. So we won't get into that because we don't have time to talk about 50 different states requirements, but maybe just some general thoughts on, kind of risk or liability for, let's just say, the investor part. My guess is there's more risk on the operator side, but talk about if somebody just wanted to own the properties, what is their additional risk and how do they mitigate that, I guess?
It's a great question, Mike, because the reality is that is one of the biggest questions I had, and I think anybody who's thinking about this has. Yeah. So first, separate the real estate from the business, 2 entities. If you're going to be part of both, that's great. But one entity owns the real estate, one entity owns the business. It leases from. Each one has its own liability policy and insurance. So the real estate side we know is an umbrella policy, whatever the coverage may be. On the business side, there's a very specific policy for this business, and that insurance cost is about $1 a day per resident. So doing the math, 10 residents, that's about $300 a month. Yeah. So it's not exorbitant. It's the average resident's paying $3,500 a month. Now that's nationwide. But I'm here in Arizona, there's people paying $2,000 a month and people paying $12,000 a month. So some people are in high-end homes and others are in low-end homes.
Yeah.
I don't focus on the low-end homes. I don't focus on the top of the top. I focus on kind of level 3, 4, as we call it in our training, where you've got the efficiencies of the money. I can only have 10 people there. I want 10 people who are paying $5,000 versus 10 people paying $2,000. The money just works a whole lot better.
Sure.
So I think that answered the question, but did we get there?
Yeah. I was just, a lot of real estate investors often think of like, well, what's my risk? I mean, if somebody's there, the mother is staying there, like you said, the client is your family. So you could see it's a very litigious society. I mean, so people say, well, my mother lives there and she fell down because she tripped over a crack in the sidewalk that shouldn't have been there. And, that stuff is going to happen. So just trying to better assess the risk.
Yeah. Let me address that because the reality is when somebody goes to an assisted living facility, they're expected that they're going to fall. You know what I mean? It's not, we always tell somebody when they come, it's like, look, mom, that's why she's here is she's got a walker or she doesn't have a walker. But when it's not if she falls, it's when she falls. Here's what we do. Here's the procedure. Now let's go all the way. Somebody dies, right? If somebody dies on your front lawn because something happened, that's a bad thing because they weren't expecting that. Literally, when somebody moves into an assisted living facility and they're 85, 90 years old, they're more than likely going to end up passing away while they're a resident at your home. Now that freaks you out. Got it. But I understand where I'm going when I pass away from this world. So I'm okay with that. Yeah. But my point to you is that when the family brings mom there, they know that this is kind of the last stop and she is going to die.
Yeah.
So the litigious aspect of, well, mom fell and she died. Well, that's part of this whole thing. I've never, ever had an issue with that. And I say that because I haven't. And also because people understand that mom will not last forever.
Right.
And, a lot of times really what happens is before somebody gets to an assisted living facility, a care home like we provide in a residential situation, they're there because they fell. They fell at home. Mom fell getting out of bed. She cracked a rib and she went to the doctor and they came out of the hospital 3 days later and they're like, okay, who's going to take care of mom? And the kids look at each other and go, well, I can't quit my job. What are we going
Right.
to do? And then the alternatives are pay somebody $25 an hour to come to that for 8 hours a day. Well,
Right.
that gets pretty pricey pretty
Sure,
quick.
sure. And Gene, I don't know the different. I'm clearly I'm not an authority in this space, and I don't know the different kind of levels of assistance needed. Let's say, but
Sure.
I mean, generally these are where people need assistance. Maybe going to the restroom, eating. They need some help. Keeping their room clean and cleaning the house or meals and stuff like that. So generally speaking, you're working with people that are somewhat self-sufficient, right? They're not, it's not like these are Alzheimer's units where they need like nonstop help necessarily, or am I reading that wrong?
Well, actually, it's right in between what you just described.
Yeah.
So when I used that term, the Golden Girls, so it was a show in the early 80s
Right,
where
right.
mature women living together, taking care of each other. It's not that, because by the time, if they can do that, they're going to stay at home and do that.
Right.
These people now are saying, wow, I didn't remember if I took my medication. It's hard to take a shower by myself. So they do
Right.
need more help. And when we say assisted living, that's just that they're assisting with their activities, daily living. So whether it be brushing teeth, keeping house, food, and so on. Now that's the light side. Here's my ideal. People always ask, what's the ideal resident? Well, they're 35 years old. They don't need any help, and they sit in a chair and read books.
Yeah.
But that's not reality. Reality
Right.
is they're 85 years old. They're having trouble getting around mobility wise. They are starting to, everyone has a level of dementia. I always say that, where's my keys? Where's my sunglasses? And they're sitting on top of your
Right.
head.
Right.
So everybody has some need. But at this point, when we're talking assisted living, they probably need help with 5 of those assisted activities of daily living. It may be 3, it could be 10, but the point is they definitely need help. Now, some need a lot of help. And
Yeah.
it's never medical. That's one thing I want to make sure we understand. A nursing home is medical. So there's gurneys, hospitals, IVs, the whole bit. This
Right.
is a home, just like your home, just like my home. So the people who are there need help, but it's not medical type help. What if they do need medical? Then the doctor either comes to visit them or the family brings mom to the doctor. What if it's an emergency? Then 911 is called, just like you would at home. If somebody
Yeah.
slips and falls and breaks a hip, 911 is called. They bring her to the hospital, and so it's kind of in between those two.
Sure. Sure. So Gene, what else haven't we talked about? What are we missing here? We've got a few minutes left to talk about it.
You got it. Well, the bottom line is the opportunity is just absolutely huge. Let me give you the big picture. There are millions and millions of people that are in a home right now, whether it be in a large facility, I don't want to say institution, but a Brookdale, a Sunrise with 200 people, or whether it be a private home. And 32% of these millions of people are living in the big facilities, and 68% are living in homes like I have.
Wow.
And that's huge. So the big guys are getting into this industry, but just because they build it doesn't mean they'll come. So if somebody's now looking at getting into this and they're saying, but the big place is coming in right down the street, my answer to that is awesome, because what they just did was all of your market research. They're telling you that the seniors are here, they've got the money, they can make a boatload of it.
Yeah.
Now the question is, does mom want to live in that big apartment type style or live in the comfortable home next door? So it's actually a perfect situation when they come to town. Having said that, there's some places where there's nothing. If you say, I'm going to look up residential assisted living, and there's literally no home in town for them. Well, what are they going to do? They're not going to move grandma from Dallas to El Paso, right? They want mom to be right there.
Right.
So there's huge opportunity. And talking Texas in your backyard, you can have up to 16 people in a single family home. That's considered a small home in Texas, 16.
Wow.
Texas is an awesome state for this. And I teach people from all over the country, don't think that only old people live in Texas or Arizona or Florida. They're all over the country.
Sure,
you can
yeah.
do this anywhere. Don't need any medical background. This is something that you can do. And I spend maybe 5 to 10 hours a week on my homes. That's it. I'm not in them every day. I'm not spending 40 hours a week. I'm not doing 80-hour weeks, but I'm not a caregiver. I'm not a manager. I hire those people. But the money that we can make is significant, and we can
Yeah.
help a lot of other people. So do good and do well is my motto.
Yeah, that's great. So, Gene, I'm guessing a couple things. One question is, I don't know, Mike, I guess there's a lot of people that are listening to this probably fall into, wow, I'm interested in the whole thing. I want to be an owner and an operator and everything. Or, but my guess is the majority of people are like, I'm just interested in the real estate part.
Yeah,
So how do people, I know you have an academy, and I want to ask you how people can get access to learn more about
sure.
this, because gosh, we can't cover all this in a half hour segment in just a second. But what is kind of the short answer for how a real estate investor could get paired with, operators that might be in their market?
Yeah, the reason why I created a 3-day training is because whether you're an investor or whether you're an operator or owner operator, there's certain things you need to know. And if you're just going to be the real estate investor, it's going to be really important for you to understand, what is this tenant, that operator, look like? What are they supposed to know, do? What's it look like, feel like? Because if you're going to sign a 5-year lease with somebody, even at twice the fair market rent, you want to know something about what they do. So
Right.
come to the class to learn that aspect. Now, how to get paired with those people?
Yeah.
Literally, when they're in the class, if they meet each other, perfect, love it. Or after the class, when I'm helping my students do this thing, which I love. What's happening right now is we literally have dozens of projects all over the country that our students are doing, and I love that part. But I'm putting together operators with real estate investors whenever I can, because they both understand they're part of the equation, and if we put them together, it's the best of all worlds. So coming
Sure.
to the class, you learn what this whole thing is, what part you want to play, and maybe even get connected right there, or we can connect it after.
Yeah, it seems like as an investor, when you hear this, you might be excited. Like, yeah, let's do 10 homes. Let's start tomorrow. Of course, one of your limitations there, outside of maybe the capital to do it, is finding an operator for all those places. Like,
Yeah.
how can I find that other side? So awesome.
Let me mention one more thing.
Sure.
You just mentioned capital, and I think is a lot of times real estate investors. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, real estate itself, and my first house was no money down, and I've just done that forever. And the point of raising capital, this is the easiest thing I've ever raised money for. When you
Yeah.
talk to investors or people that lend money, not banks, I mean private lenders and so on, and you say seniors, baby boomers, senior housing, the rates of return we're talking,
They get it.
they pull out the checkbook and say, how much and where do I
They
do
get it.
this?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Especially if most people want to know that, especially that are, if your alternative is funding rental properties, it's like, well, the rents are significantly above the traditional rent. So I don't have to worry about kind of, debt service, if you will.
and
So
vacancies. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, Gene, if folks want to learn more, I know we couldn't cover everything today. Where do they go to learn more about, you, or about, some of your events or your trainings? Where should they go?
You got it. Well, first of all, I have a free report that all of your listeners can get, and I'm going to give you the
Awesome.
website you can go to. And if you just fill in the form that says "send me the free report," I'll do that, and maybe an article that we had on U.S. World Report and so on. But the website is simply RALacademy.com. So Residential Assisted Living Academy.com. RALacademy.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll add a link down below the video here for anybody
Awesome.
that wasn't able to write that down, maybe just listening in. But it's an
Sure.
exciting space. I'm interested. We might have to talk offline at some point and talk
Love
about
to.
opportunities. But it's an interesting space, and I think a lot of real estate investors are always looking, how do I squeeze more juice out of that fruit, right? So this sounds like it's one of those potential great opportunities. So thanks for sharing
Especially
with
in
us.
this one. Thank you.
All right, Gene, have a great day. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.